It happened. Governor Tim Walz finally caved.
You are now under arrest. Please sit down and wait for instruction.
Last night, Minneapolis police were unleashed, ordered by the governor himself to crack down on the protesters. After weeks of calling ICE agents Gestapo and comparing illegal migrants to Anne Frank, the Minnesota governor is now begging to cooperate with the very administration he declared war against less than 48 hours ago. And what we're about to reveal explains exactly why. Because the walls just closed in on the biggest coordinated insurrection in modern American history, and it's Democrats who are finally going down. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. The scenes from last night were frankly stunning. Minneapolis police officers who've been ordered to stand down by feckless, lawless Democrat politicians these past 6 weeks were finally unleashed to do the very job they all signed up for: restore and maintain law and order. The protesters across Minneapolis were clearly stunned. They simply weren't prepared to get wrestled to the ground and put in handcuffs by the very local law enforcement that stood by and allowed their antics for so long. So what happened? Well, a single phone call with President Trump. That's what happened. Trump and Walz had a, quote, very productive phone call yesterday that apparently has changed everything. Now, what we know is that going into that phone call, the Trump administration received information on infiltrated encrypted signal chats that were orchestrating these riots. And what they found was that the signal chat network didn't just involve clueless left-wing lunatics who had nothing else to do but harass ICE agents. No, the network included Minnesota government officials and even members of Tim Walz's own administration. For example, Amanda Kohler, a campaign strategist for Walz, has been featured prominently within the network as an active participant. Evidence actually suggests Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan may have been involved at the highest levels. And here's the kicker. Investigators found donor lists showing foreign money funding these organizations. You heard that right. Foreign involvement in a coordinated effort to obstruct federal law enforcement. All right, we are talking insurrection and we are talking treason. So the Trump administration uncovered the fact that members of Walz's own government were running an organized operation to track, dox, and obstruct federal law enforcement, which is, again, the very definition of an insurrection, paid for by foreign money, which is the very definition of treason. They were using government databases to run license plates of ICE vehicles, dispatching agitators to block arrests, and coordinating what can only be described as a state-sponsored insurrection. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that they have opened a federal investigation into reaching the highest levels of Minnesota's government. Border Czar Tom Homan is on the ground as we speak in Minnesota, and Trump himself has been repeatedly using the I word, insurrection, to describe what's happening in Minneapolis. And it just looked as if the walls were closing in on Walz. It looked like the combination of the uncovering of the signal chat network, the FBI investigation, the Tom Homan coming to Minneapolis to spearhead law enforcement efforts, that was enough to convince Tampon Tim that he was about to get Maduro'd. And so he blinked. He picked up the phone, he called Trump, and now Minneapolis law enforcement has been unleashed to crush the protesters, all as ICE agents catch the rapidly dwindling number of illegal migrants in Minnesota. It's pretty clear that Tim Walz just capitulated completely. Now, make no mistake, this is literal treason we're talking about, right? You've got state officials coordinating with foreign-funded activists to use government resources to obstruct federal agents carrying out their lawful duties. The DHS, the DOJ, the CIA, the FBI, they are all actively investigating right now. Walz knows the jig is up, and he's basically pulling a Mayor Eric Adams at this point, right? Do you remember the New York City Eric Adams, Democrat, or former Democrat? He originally stood up to Trump. And he said, we are a sanctuary city, and you can't keep busing. This was during the time that originally when Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott were busing all of their illegals into New York City. And then Trump came in and Trump said, we're going to crack down on your sanctuary city policies. And Mayor Eric Adams was like, no, you're not. No, we are. This is our citizens. These are they're our neighbors. And then he quickly folded when he got embroiled in his own scandal. Speaking of, by the way, we haven't even mentioned the multi-billion-dollar fraud ring that's being investigated in Minneapolis and is implicating Walz's administration. So make no mistake, that's why Walz surrendered in all of this. Not because he suddenly grew a conscience, not because he cares about public safety, but because he knows Trump has the receipts. The signal chats have been preserved. The license plate databases have been documented. The foreign donor connections are being traced. And everyone involved, from state representatives to campaign strategists to possibly the lieutenant governor herself, is now under federal investigation. So what's the agreement that Trump and Walz hammered out on that phone call? Well, that's exactly what we're about to find out, but I'll give you a little hint. It's everything Trump wanted. You know, the same nefarious, corrupt forces that have infested Minnesota's government have been eating away at your savings now for years at a federal level. Now, of course, we're talking about inflation, where reckless Federal Reserve policies have been relentlessly devaluing our dollars for decades. Here's a not-so-fun fact for you. Whatever money you had saved up in 2020 has already lost 22% of its value. There are riots over in Tehran over things like this, gang. I mean, your savings didn't shrink. They got robbed slowly and quietly by the hidden tax called inflation. And here's what makes this explosive. Most Americans have 100% of their retirement tied to paper assets, all dependent on a system that just keeps printing more dollars. But thankfully, there's a way to protect what you've worked so hard to build, and that's with physical gold and silver. And that's why I turn to Augusta Precious Metals, the absolute best in the business. Augusta Precious Metals has been helping Americans diversify with physical gold for over a decade. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers, and unmatched transparency. I cannot recommend them enough. Go to turleybuysgold.com right now or text Turley to 35052 to get their free information guide. And here's what you need to understand. This isn't about liquidating everything. This is about repositioning a portion of your savings. This stays inside your IRA or your 401k. No taxes, no penalties. As the best and clear leader in their field with my seal of approval, Augusta Precious Metals makes it simple. It starts with that free guide, then a one-on-one educational call. No obligation, no pressure. They're patriots just like us. You're going to love chatting with them. This is about stability, clarity, and a plan that makes sense in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. Augusta Precious Metals, the best at what they do, the ones I trust, and the ones I recommend to you. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052 and get your free guide today. You'll sleep better tonight knowing you have a plan. At the heart of getting Walz to buckle was the flooding the zone strategy. That's what Border Czar Tom Homan has been talking so much about of late. You overwhelm sanctuary cities with massive ICE presence. We're talking literally 5 times the number of their entire police department. And that overwhelming force eventually gets these sanctuary cities to cave. They give up on their sanctuary city policies precisely because the calculus isn't working anymore. Those policies are only exacerbating and increasing the amount of federal agents taking over their cities. And this is the goal for the Trump administration. The goal isn't to flood the zone. The goal isn't to send in, 100,000 federal troops into Minneapolis. The goal is to get cities like Minneapolis to drop their sanctuary city nonsense and cooperate with federal officials so as to remove as many illegal migrants as possible as quickly as possible. Remember, the Trump administration has confirmed that they're removing 10 times the amount of illegals from red states than we're seeing from Minneapolis. But you don't hear about it. It's not in the news every day because there's complete cooperation between state and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. There are no riots because local police in red states won't allow it. There are no liberal lunatics using their SUVs to try to hamper law enforcement operations of federal agents because local law enforcement won't allow it. That's what the Trump administration ultimately wants from Minneapolis. They've got their eye on the ball. The eye on the ball is to deport all illegal migrants and all future Democrat voters from this country. And it looks like Trump got exactly what he wanted. The flooding the zone with over 3,000 federal agents has worked. It was a forcing mechanism that got Walz to back off on much of his sanctuary city policies. The signal network being uncovered, I'm sure, helped as well. So in exchange, Trump reportedly agreed to pull back some agents. That's the key term he used, some. So as I understand, these are the agents from that extra 1,000 that were sent in with Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino. So these are the guys who otherwise secure the border, the southern border. Their normal job isn't to deal with these obnoxious, odious lunatics in urban environments. They're the ones, these are the Border Patrol officers who close the border so securely that they've reduced monthly illegal border crossings to 0. There is nothing they would love more than to get out of the cold of Minneapolis and get back into the hot deserts of the border. That's what they, with Bavino, by the way, that's what they do. That's their jam. Now, there are conflicting reports as to whether Bavino is going to go back to the border as well. Again, that's what he does. That's what he loves doing. That's what he's great at. But regardless, we'll have to see. Pulling back some agents involves only, as I understand it, portions of the CBP that were brought in to help with security as ICE were making their arrest of illegal migrants. It does not at this point refer to the original 2,000 that came in, the original 2,000 ICE agents that came in 6 weeks ago in the original surge. It appears to be a very minor pullback of these agents. Trump also agreed that local law enforcement can do their own investigations into the recent shooting. But the only way Trump's going to allow any of this is if local and state law enforcement in Minneapolis actually do their jobs and cooperate with ICE and other agencies. And apparently, as you saw in those videos, that is happening. Also, a huge concession from Walz is he's going to honor, again, this is what he's claiming, he's going to honor detainers. In other words, when local law enforcement catch an illegal alien and federal agents find out about it, what they do is they instruct local law enforcement to keep him in custody, keep him detained, so that they can arrest him. So they don't have to go looking for him, right? That's not what sanctuary cities do. They actually automatically release the migrant, the illegal migrant, once they find out ICE is coming for him. I know it's disgusting, but that's what they've been doing. So ICE has had to go door to door to find these people. Well, it looks like that is now officially over. Minneapolis law enforcement is going to be honoring detainers, which effectively destroys sanctuary city policies. So this would give the operation much more manpower and access to local infrastructure and places to help with efficiency. And so we've got Walz conceding and cooperating with ICE, honoring immigration retainers, and then Trump has the leverage of the extra 1,000 federal agents that were sent in, he can use as a carrot for Walz and withdraw some of them. So I see this as an unequivocal victory for Trump without question. He is getting exactly what he wants. President Trump just taught Democrats a masterclass in the power of the executive branch. If Trump wants you as governor or mayor to do something, you will do it. Eventually, you will bend the knee. Tim Walz just learned that lesson the hard way. And every other sanctuary state governor just watched it happen in real time. Welcome to Trump's America, where the rule of law is being made great again. Hey gang, before we end this video, if you've been a longtime follower of Charlie Talks, you know that we're building a patriot community rooted in faith, family, and freedom. On February 21st in Dover, Delaware, we'll be gathering in person to celebrate and advance that movement together. I'll be the keynote speaker at the 2026 Lincoln Day dinner and signing books at my personal table. But you got to get your tickets before the deadline. Learn more and register by scanning the QR code below. I'll see you in Dover.